Let's just put this on here. We are going to be talking about sleep. And anyone who knows a little bit about me knows that I am obsessed with this topic. And so I will be bringing all of that to you. And so before we get started, I wanna ask, if I was basically telling you that you needed to travel a little while and maybe get some routines in place, but when you do that, you will get this powerful elixir, this elixir of life. And basically, if you have this elixir, you would improve your immunity by 70%, reduce your blood pressure. You would improve your cognitive, you would reduce your chances of cognitive decline. You would improve your reproductive health. You would manage your weight. You would be a lot more creative. You would improve your mental health. You would improve your ability to problem solve. And you would actually look better. You would look your skin would glow, your eyes would twinkle. You would basically be de-risking yourself of every major disease out there. Would you travel to go get this elixir? Would you say, yes, I want this, whatever you're saying, I want it? You would. And I'm basically telling you that sleep is that powerful elixir. Sleep basically does everything that I just said. It actually improves your immunity, blood pressure, reproductive health, etc., etc. And I am going to be talking to you for the next hour about the importance of this and really breaking it down for you. I'm not going to go into what the Lighthouse is. Maybe if we have a chance later, I can tell you a little bit about our support groups, but I really just want to dive right into it. I think a lot of us do think about sleep as being rest. We've grown up with this, just go rest, honey, sweetheart, let's just go rest. And what I want to do is I want to spend the next hour basically putting the idea that sleep is rest to rest. And I'm from the camp, I'm recovering from that space of I'll sleep when I'm dead. Okay, I'm a highly productive person. I'm a recovering type A personality. So yes, I am one of those people that is very high strung and just would rather work than to sleep or rest. But as I have learned the science of sleep and I've learned the importance of sleep, I have made it absolutely my number one priority and the priority for my children as well. And so, and the reason why I did that, because if you think about it, if you think about Mother Nature and you think about evolution and you think about our, sort of what is weeded away through evolution, Mother Nature has gone through great lengths to make sure that we are still sleeping. And it didn't eliminate sleep. We are not mating at that time. We are not hunting at that time. We are not eating at that time. And we are absolutely exposed to any outside threats when we are sleeping. However, it still kept it around. 1/3 of our lives we spend sleeping. 1/3 of our lives, there's processes happening in our body and brain. And so it has gone through great lengths to keep us still in that state of sleeping. So it absolutely is crucial. And sometimes, scientists will say that the pillars of good health, mental health, physical health are diet, exercise, and sleep. Sleep being the foundation before all of that. So if you don't have good sleep in order, don't even try to think you're going to be exercising or dieting, because you're actually increasing your risk of injury. You are, a lot more sort of prone to reaching out for sugar when you don't have good rest. So sleep really is fundamental to everything else that we want to be doing. So what I want to take you through is the effect of lack of sleep. And I really just want to convince you to give this the utmost importance. I want to deconstruct it a little bit. I'm not going to spend too much time on what happens inside of you, first, second, third, fourth stage of sleep. And then how do you get a good night's sleep is what I will talk about at the end. I'll also be talking about some myths that we have about sleep and about caffeine and things like that. So let's start here. So right now we, as Matthew Walker from a sleep scientist from UC Berkeley. He talks about how we are in a catastrophic sleep loss epidemic. Now, this was pre-COVID, okay? So as we are becoming more and more technologically advanced, as there was electricity, now there's blue light, we are becoming more and more sleep deprived, and that is increasing our chances of lots of other diseases that come into play when we don't have good sleep. Anything less than 7 hours is actually considered insufficient sleep or sleep deprivation, depending on which sleep researcher you speak to. The World Health Organization has labeled night shift as a natural carcinogen. For those of you who are not aware of what a carcinogen is something that causes cancer. So it is a natural carcinogen if you do not if you are doing the night shift, but you're not really protecting your day, it can actually result in cancer cells actually growing. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And then sleep, the Center for Disease Control in the US, CDC, has declared insufficient sleep a public health concern. Even knowing all of this, there's still a lot of stigma associated with resting and sleeping, burning the midnight oil and all of these things that we say, and we send out those emails at 1 a.m. to sort of impress our superiors because there's this idea that this person works so hard and they sent me this email, it shows their effort. And if I get an email at 1 a.m., that person's going to get a phone call from me the next morning saying, this is not happening, because I just know that that is not sustainable. But I also know that they're not showing up to work the next day in their full capacity, because that's just not possible. So, and so sleep is the single most effective thing that you can do for your brain and your body. Now, sleep is critical for homeostatic restoration. It's critical for tissue repair, immunity, the glymphatic system, which I will speak to you guys about in the cognitive decline part, emotional regulation, learning, and creativity. Lack of sleep, now insufficient sleep, anything less than 7 hours, is linked to obesity, heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, Alzheimer's, to the point where they are saying that the two most feared diseases in the developed world, cancer and Alzheimer's, are very linked to such a degree that it can almost be called causal. And they cannot say it's causes, because then you need to have only that thing causing cancer. But it's the number one risk factor for developing such diseases: stroke, cancer, hyperglycemia, poor mental health, higher mortality, and all of these other things that are associated. And I'm going to be deep diving into some of these, because I just think that it's very important that we understand what it means to have dementia, Alzheimer's, cancer, even being exposed to COVID, your chances of actually fighting COVID, as well as catching the virus and not being able to fight that virus, all are linked to poor sleep. Depression, there was one study done where, and there's many studies done since then, that long work hours are not necessarily associated with depression in their workload, but actually because they're actually spending the nighttime working rather than sleeping. So it's not the workload, but the hours that they're putting in. And I would say that a lot of times we spend time being very distracted, not being focused. So these things are all linked, where this amount of work I need to get through the day, but because I'm so distracted, now it's trickling into the night just for me to finish it. So now building that muscle is also going to be very important, so you don't get distracted, so it's not spilling over into your night. And so let's talk a little bit about the glymphatic system. So Matthew Walker, he actually used to study Alzheimer's disease, and he found that there was such a huge link between Alzheimer's disease and poor sleep. Now, let me just tell you something that happens in the brain. You guys must all be aware of the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system, you guys have brushes and massages, these face rollers. All of these things are actually for draining the lymphatic system and getting rid of all the toxins that are in your body. body. Now we're exposed to toxins all day long through the air conditioner, through the food, through just, you know, being alive in this world. We are exposed to toxins, but our body is extremely sophisticated and it can fight a lot of these toxins. So it actually knows what to do with them. Now more recently, they found that there's another set of pipes called the glymphatic system. The glymphatic system, imagine, you know, you have a brain, and in the brain, every single day, there's a sticky substance that forms. It's like a beta amyloid protein. There are two proteins that are really the culprit here when it comes to Alzheimer's or dementia. Beta amyloids and tau proteins build up in your brain every single day, okay? Just like if you don't brush your teeth for one day, you build up a plaque on your teeth. This is the same thing that happens in your brain. There's a plaque that builds up in your brain. Now, when you go into deep sleep, so not where I'm like, oh, I just took a nap. I'm talking about the deep restorative sleep. There's a system that kicks on in your brain, and it literally is like a power wash for your brain to get rid of all of these sticky substances that are building up in your brain. And then it washes it out through the spinal cord, through the glymphatic system. It only turns on in deep sleep. So you can do all the face rolling and the lymphatic massages, but the glymphatic system will not be activated unless you are getting deep sleep. And there's lots of things that are getting in the way of us getting that deep sleep. So you might actually be sleeping 6 hours, but you're not getting the right kind of sleep. And they found that one night of people that are not getting that deep restorative sleep. So they were still getting 8 hours, but they were just being woken up right before they went into that deep sleep cycle. And they did a spinal tap the next day, and they found that there was a buildup of this protein. Over the years, that starts to suffocate the brain. Okay. And so now all of a sudden your brain starts to get suffocated, and this is where the dementias, etc., are starting to form. And so sleep is absolutely critical for brain health, for mental health. And the first place that starts to get suffocated is your hippocampus, which is the memory center of your brain. And so if you think about, you know, there were two heads of state that really talked about not needing more than 4 to 5 hours of sleep. And they almost wore it like a badge of honor. And that was Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. And both of them actually got Alzheimer's disease. And so we need to think about, what are we doing here to our brains when we actually are not going into that deep restorative sleep? So that is sleep and cognitive decline. You're basically setting yourself up for that as you move into, as you get older and older, that build up starts to happen. And then obviously you can have even early onset dementia depending on how early you started. When it comes to learning, this is also very important, guys. So when you are in deep sleep, I want you to think about your hippocampus, the memory center. It's like a USB stick, okay? Now the USB stick actually takes in information all day long, and then it takes it and plugs it into our long-term memory, into our cortex, which is our hard drive. In order for that USB stick to be empty, you need to have had a good night's sleep. Okay, so now if you are not getting the good night's sleep, the 7 to 8 hours of good restorative sleep, your USB stick is full because you didn't download the rest of it. You didn't retain anything from yesterday, and now it's just piling up and you're losing information, you're not retaining information. So for acquisition of learning and soaking in new information, for attention and tolerating the frustration for learning something new, you need that USB stick to be empty. For consolidating, which is when the cortex goes in, which is when we go to sleep at night, our memory drive goes into our cortex and you retain and save that information. You clear the USB stick and you wake up the next morning ready to learn some more. And then obviously to recall that information, you're going to want that. A lot of times I'm hearing clients say, I just can't retain anything. I can't remember what I learned yesterday. My first question, most people are like, oh, I have ADHD. But my first question is going to be, how late are you looking at your electronics? How much sleep are you getting? Because it doesn't matter if you're getting, like I said, 8 hours of sleep, if it's not the good quality sleep that you're getting. So all of that is going to be important. Then something else interesting happens in our sleep, which happens in our REM sleep, which only happens towards the later part of the night, where REM sleep is 75% of what happens later in the night. And that is when the weird things, associations are happening, and it's super important for creativity. So for example, I might I might learn something in the day about frames, picture frame. I'm just looking at a picture frame here, and I might look at a picture frame, and then if I Google, so Google search page 1 through 20, it will have pictures of all sorts of frames and all sorts of things. But on Google page 200, there might be pictures of Monet, there might be glass, because, you know, how is glass made? These weird associations that you wouldn't think of when you first think of picture frame. All of these weird associations are happening in REM sleep. And that is where remarkable creative insights to previously impenetrable problems happened. So REM sleep is super important for creative problem solving. Even if you have a life problem, if maybe you're not a problem solver at work, but I mean, all of us have problems these days. But if you want a creative solution, what you want to do is you want to go to sleep and say, I have a question here, and I have a question about, you know, should I do this or should I do that? And then your psyche will come up with the most amazing revelations during REM sleep, and your answers will come to you there. So it's very important for you to get both types of sleep. Some people say, oh, I go to bed at 8 and I wake up at 4. Okay, fine. You can do that every now and then. And I would recommend that to my children. If they didn't finish their homework and they have a huge project that's due at 7 a.m. the next morning, I'm going to say, go to bed at 8 p.m. and wake up at 4, and then use 4 to 7 to finish this project, because you're going to work double time rather than if you stay up late and then try to do this. And they've seen the benefits of this. I've seen the benefits of this. And you are 3 times more likely to be able to solve problems faster. You're able to do 40% less learning if you actually try to pull an all-nighter than if you try to actually wake up early. So yeah, every now and then it's okay for you to do the 8 to 4, but that is not where the magic is going to happen. You do want it to be balanced. So anywhere between 9 to 5 or 10 to 6, these kinds of hours, because before midnight, you're actually getting a lot more of the restorative sleep. And then after midnight, you move into slower slow wave cycles, but you get a lot more of the REM sleep. I'm going to talk a little bit about the cycles in a minute, but right now I'm just talking about learning, creativity, deadlines. You need to have a good night's sleep in order to get the most of that out of yourself for those issues. And that means you have to learn how to manage your anxiety as well, because how do I get a good night's sleep when I know I have something due? Trust that you're going to be able to finish that in the morning if you get a good night's sleep a lot faster. And you'll just have to do that through experimentation. So sleep and mental health. Now, the first thing that sort of goes offline when you don't get a good night's sleep is your prefrontal cortex. Now, if you look at the brain has a prefrontal cortex, which is the center of impulse control. It is the center of decision making. It is the center of you being able to read cues in people and not misread them. It's the center for where judgment is made. This is the part that is the last to be formed in individuals. And before, we used to think that it was locked in before 9 or 10. With neuroscience and neuroimagery, we found that up until the age of 22, 23, the prefrontal cortex is not fully on. So that can explain why we made all of those bad decisions when we were younger. It's because we were not fully online as of yet. However, if you get a poor night's sleep or you don't get enough sleep, you are 60% offline. Means you have 60% less ability to manage your impulses. You're going to be seeking a lot more rewards. You're going to be making poor decisions. The guy who didn't look at you while he was walking down the hallway at your workplace, you're going to misread that. And you're going to say, well, I think he's really mad at me, because you're operating from a place of the amygdala. That means you are 60% more in the fight or flight. And you all know that, right? You all know that when you don't get a good night's sleep, you like kick the door, the bed, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, and the dog, the kid, everything that comes in your way, they're going to get it from you, because you're just a lot more reactive. You have a lot less patience. That's because your prefrontal cortex is not fully online, and your amygdala is 60% more reactive. And poor sleep is linked to almost every mental health problem and psychiatric diagnosis. There's a sleep component as part of that. So poor sleep is linked to thoughts of suicide. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. All of that because the prefrontal cortex is not on. So you really want to guard your sleep, especially if you're struggling with mental health issues. You want to find a way to get a sleep routine in place. Just like when we're doing sleep training for babies, you're going to have to do some sleep training for yourself as well. So sleep and immunity, this is also something that's super important. One night of getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep, it drops your natural killer cells by 70%. Read that again, guys. 70%. That means when you go out into the world, you're only 30% protected from any bacteria or virus that comes your way. Now, natural killer cells actually ward off cancer cells too. Each day we produce, precancerous cells, we produce bacteria in our body, we're exposed to viruses in the environment, but we have these fighter cells that go after anything foreign, and then they get rid of them. And so these killer fighter cells are extremely capable, and that's why we've made it for these eons on the planet, because we have these killer fighter cells. However, 70% of them are sleeping when you are supposed to need them. And so you literally are exposed and vulnerable if you don't get a good night's sleep. So there were studies done with people, let me see if I can find this study. So the sleep study, there was this in the Surrey Sleep Center in England, they looked at healthy young women, okay? Healthy young women who reduced their sleep for 6 hours. 6 hours for 1 week. 711 genes were distorted. Gene distortion, this is where the cancer starts to form. So there's a huge link between sleep and cancer, sleep and Alzheimer's, sleep and immunity. And you're 4 times more likely to catch a cold or virus if you sleep 5 hours or less. There was another study done with mice, and they gave them malignant cancer cells, and half of them were allowed to sleep while the other half were partially disrupted. So they just didn't get that quality sleep. And so it was only reducing the quality, not the time that they spent sleeping. After 1 week, just 1 week of these sleep deprived mice, their cancer growth was accelerated by 2 times more. So the size and the speed of the cancer actually grew twice as much because the body was not doing what it was supposed to be doing. And so the lack of sleep actually agitates your nervous system, and it goes into overdrive. It ramps up the fight and flight. And guess what that means? There's a lot more inflammation in your body. And when we talk about COVID, and we talk about these viruses, and we talk about cancer, we talk about anything, it's all about inflammation. How inflamed is your body? Because if you have that much inflammation, you're not going to be able to fight everything that the world is throwing in your direction when it comes to these viruses and bacteria. So what we want is anti-inflammatory. And that's why they recommend all these anti-inflammatory drinks and, vitamins and things like that. But sleep is the biggest anti-inflammatory thing that you can have. And so you really, really want to think about that as part of you know, I'm taking my vitamins, I'm exercising, but then am I getting the right sleep? Because if you're not, it's not gonna matter. There's also other studies done on athletes. You know, athletes are obsessed with their sleep. Federer and all these guys, like they sleep 8, 12, 12 hours a day even, because you're 80% more likely to get injured if you don't get the right kind of sleep. So it actually is when the body goes in to fix, to heal. This is why when we have surgery and the doctor says rest, he means sleep, because the more you sleep, the more your body is doing what it's supposed to be doing. During the daytime, the body is doing other things, you know, and in this wives' tale, it's not really a wives' tale anymore, but when we tell our kids, go to sleep if you want to be taller, sleep more so you can grow. The growth hormone actually kicks on when you sleep. And so you actually are healing parts of your body. You're growing because your body is rested in that state, the deep restorative sleep. So think about that as you think about how are you going to be doing the next few years of your life, and having sleep be a most fundamental part of that. So let's talk a little bit about the stages of sleep. So there's really 5 stages, and REM stage is something separate. So stage 1 is where you sort of doze off, but you can sort of be awakened a lot, you know, easily. Stage 2, this is when your brain starts to slow down, the brain waves. This is where you're sort of in that deep sleep, but you can still be woken up quite easily, and you're still fairly light. And this is where a lot of people are you guys still with me? Oh my gosh, somebody has signed on from another account. Can I see if you guys are still with me? Can you show me hands? Yeah, okay, good. Somebody else logged on from this account. Sorry, guys. Hopefully they won't kick me out. If they kick me out, come back. I'm not done yet. We still have to talk about how to get a good night's sleep. And then you have now in stage 3 and 4. This is where the magic happens. Everything I just told you happens in these 3 stages. Okay, 4 being obviously where you are in that dead sleep. Like things could be happening around you, I have no idea. That dead sleep is when the body is working overtime. Now, body is healing, it's growing, it's doing all sorts of things. And then your psyche is also working. And so it kicks on during REM. So you move through these cycles all night long. It's not like you go to sleep and then you move and then at 5 p.m. you're in REM. No, you move through these cycles all night long. So you going from one sleep cycle, and earlier in the night, so before midnight or, you know, before 1 a.m., you're moving through these cycles a lot more. So the sleep is very, very restorative. You all have gone to sleep on the sofa at like 7 p.m. passed out. I'm sure you all have. I have at least. And then at like 4 a.m., you're like, I'm ready to rock and roll, because you just feel rested, right? That deep rested sleep is because before the earlier part of the night, you get a lot more of the restorative sleep. Later on in the night, you move through those cycles a lot slower, and then you get a lot more of the REM sleep. So if you're sleeping later in the night and you're an early riser, you might be losing 25%, or if you sleep earlier in the night, you might actually be losing a very big component, which is the REM sleep. And so somebody asked a question on here that said, you know, what about the 5 a.m. club? Please don't be part of the 5 a.m. club unless you're part of the 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. maximum club. I'm not going to be trying to wake up, and you shouldn't wake up if you are not getting that 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Okay, so don't join any club unless you're part of the other club. There should be a criteria for joining these clubs. Oh gosh, okay, what's happening here? Okay, so another thing for you guys to understand is that the circadian rhythms, it's like an internal body clock. We all have a body clock. This is why when we travel way back when, remember when we used to travel and you go to California and like it's day and it's night and all of these things are getting messed up? It's actually sets according to the sun. The sun sets your circadian rhythms. So it's controlled by light. And the blue light that we are all exposed to, everybody's looking at me on some device right now. That device, every single device that is HD has a blue light behind it. That blue light actually is disrupting our circadian rhythms. Before there was electricity, we rose with the sun and we set with the sun, right? There, I mean, there's a candlelight, okay, fine, but even that candle is going to go out at some point. But we used to move with the sun. And that's how we have survived the eons that we have on the planet without these major diseases in play. But because of electricity, we are throwing off our circadian rhythms majorly. And so this is where you are going to want to sort of keep in mind, how do I get outside into the morning sun? And when the sun starts to set, I start to set, the lights in my house start to get a little bit dimmer, and I start to train my brain into thinking, all right, my sweet brain, get ready for some melatonin release, because that's what we are going to want to do. Now, there's a natural dip in our circadian rhythms, strangely speaking. Maybe this was just, evolution telling us that we need to rest at this time, but there's a natural dip between 1 and 3 p.m. Now, this is when most people have their coffee. Don't drink coffee, okay, at this time, because you are basically setting yourself up for some really poor quality sleep at night. And please don't tell me, oh, no, I can sleep with caffeine. You can't. The research shows it. Tons of research shows it, that you're literally aging yourself. You're hurting yourself. You're not getting that deep restorative sleep if you have caffeine in your system. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So 1 to 3 p.m., maybe you want to go back out, sort of go for a quick, walk, 10, 15 minutes, but don't have coffee at that time. So this is our circadian rhythm, something for you to know. Now, 75% of the world's population, actually, no, I don't know if it, anyways, 1/3 of the world's population is actually the night owl. Their circadian clocks are flipped. These probably were the night guards, back then. And these guys were the ones that sort of stayed awake at night, and their circadian clocks are a little bit different. So where the majority of the world functions on the morning routine, there are some people whose chronotype actually makes them best suited for night shift work. And so they get their deep sleep during the day. And if you are not working according to your chronotype, you're really actually going to be making yourself sick at some point, because you're not following the body's natural rhythm. And you are going to you have to recreate day and night for yourself. So there are 1/3 of the world's population which are really, really switch on, and they are night owls, but please don't think you're one of them. If you actually just have bad habits. And some people are like, oh, I like to sleep till 1 in the afternoon. No, that's probably because you're sleeping at like 4 in the morning, and that doesn't count. But you really do have to kind of know your rhythms to see what your natural rhythm is. So what is good sleep? Good sleep is the quality and the quantity. So this is not enough. Like I said, it's not enough that you sleep 5 good hours and then I'm done. Sorry, guys, it's just not. I mean, it might be good for your body, but the brain still needs what it needs. And we might convince ourselves, because that's what just human beings do. We are really good at convincing ourselves that we need less than that. But everything in our research is showing that your body needs more time. Your tissue repair, your immunity, your killer cells, your lymphatic system, your growth hormone, that needs more time. Your liver needs to flush what it needs to flush. All of that needs to happen when your eyes are closed and you're sleeping. So you got to give that its time rather than convincing yourself that you need less. So 7 to 9 hours of sleep is really good for adults, and you should fall asleep within 30 minutes. So you doze off and you toss and turn, and then in 30 minutes, you usually are in the second, third stage of your sleep. It is very normal for people to wake up in the middle of the night for about 20 minutes and then go back to sleep. But this tossing, turning, that is not normal. That is insomnia, and you do need to work on that. And we do need to figure out, before you jump towards the sleeping pills and the melatonin, you need to figure out what you're doing during the day. And I say this all the time, that sleep is done at night, but it's made in the day. What you do in the day will directly impact how you sleep at night. What you drink, what you wear, how cold is your room, how hot is your room, how much exercise did you get, how much sunlight did you get? All of that is happening in the day. It's only done at night. So you prepare all day long for a good night's sleep. And my day revolves around that. Is this going to impact my sleep? Is this going to impact my sleep? And it really just revolves around that. And when you wake up, you're not like snooze, snooze, snooze. That is not good quality of sleep. Something is telling me that you probably had too much coffee that day, or you drank that Coke at 2 p.m. and that you didn't get the deep restorative sleep. So if you hit that snooze button, you're not getting the quality sleep that you need, even if you slept 8 hours. So, I wake up, but I'm not rested. Tell me what you're doing in the day and I'll tell you. I'm going to be like the grown-up sleep nanny. That's what I feel like I've been doing with lots of people, is that before I even try to work on your psyche and our CBT therapies and our DBT, first tell me how much you're sleeping and then we'll work on that, because you might not even learn anything. And so I will be the adult nanny for sleep training. So how do you get a good night's sleep? Let's just get right into it. So let's talk a little bit about myths. So counting sheep helps. Actually, the research shows, and they've done research on this, that it doesn't help. It actually makes it worse. So don't count things. What they did find was that if you, and I don't know how they come up with these research studies, but when they had them count sheep, they actually stayed up longer. Probably because they have like math anxiety like me. But if they had them walk their favorite city, the streets of their favorite city. So if I walk through Zurich and I have this and I go on this and I see this store and I see these people, for me, not for me, for the research shows that if you walk the streets of your favorite city, you will move into a deep meditative state and go into that sleep faster. So if you are having a hard time falling asleep, don't count sheep, walk your favorite streets in your mind's eye. Another myth is that ocean and white noise helps. I need this in my life. It's research says it doesn't have any impact, but like it's psychological for me right now. I have to have a fan going in my room. And if it's too quiet, I can't sleep. Some hotel rooms, like I used to literally carry around a little fan with me because I needed some buzzing. And if you think about it, like in the amniotic fluid, there's a kind of noise happening where when you are when you are a fetus of your inside of your mother's uterus, that noise was going on. So maybe there is some recollection of that in our psyche and we kind of find that soothing. So do what you need to do. It doesn't work. It does work. It's on you, but it doesn't hurt. So as long as it doesn't hurt, I'm going to keep doing it. Naps. Let's take naps. This is going to help us. No, naps don't help. Naps ruin. Think about it. I mean, for those of you who have kids and you're trying to sleep train them, you do everything in your power to keep that child awake so they hit that bed at 7 p.m. and then they get the good night's sleep. The minute they get that, 2-hour nap in the middle of the day, all of a sudden they're going to be 2 hours up later, because there's a chemical called adenosine that is building up in our brain. So we have a chemical, we wake up like this, okay? This is the level of the chemical in your brain. And then all day long, this adenosine is building up and it's building up and it's building up. And as soon as you take a nap, it drops down. And it needs that level of pressure in order for you to start to feel drowsy. And when it's this pressure, you feel drowsy. So if you dropped it 2 hours, you can expect that you're going to be 2 hours later. And there are times where I do go out with my friends and I stay up late. I'm going to make sure I get that nap, because by 10 p.m. my lights are out. And so it's like, how do I get that nap in the middle of the day so I can stay up a little bit later and not be such a party pooper in the middle of the party. And so naps don't help if you're trying to get a good rhythm to your sleep. They actually are very bad for your sleep hygiene. You can recover your sleep on the weekend. All week long I get 5 hours, but on the weekend I sleep and then I'm up again on Sunday. Doesn't work like that, guys, because the damage cannot be undone. Now the body is like, it can heal itself. Sure, I'm a big believer. No matter what, we can heal ourselves. But once you hit that tipping point, once you've activated the Alzheimer's, once you've gotten the diabetes, it's harder for you to now go and heal your body, right? And so the brain and the body, it's not like a bank where you withdraw, deposit, withdraw, deposit. You damage, tipping point, and there we go. There's so many people that are super healthy, and they say, you know what? Nobody in my family has diabetes, and now I have diabetes, and I'm so fit and I'm so able, I exercise, but I have insulin issues now because of stress. And sleep actually really disrupts your stress, your insulin levels, your body temperature, all of that goes to, causes a lot of havoc in your body if you are not getting the good night's sleep. And then lastly, the snooze button gets you more sleep. The snooze button is like a jolt to your system, and you release cortisol every time there's a snooze button. Even the chirping birds and the wind chimes will actually disrupt you out of, if you are in that deep sleep and you wake up from that place, you are going to be jolting yourself out of that place. And there's a lot of cortisol that is injected in your body at that point. I mean, maybe not a lot, but there's like drip. And so honestly speaking, I have not used an alarm clock. I can't remember when. I mean, maybe when I took a flight that was at 2 a.m. or something, just to make sure that I don't fall asleep. I kept it as a backup plan. And so I usually keep a backup plan. Like I might have an alarm on for 6 if I really need to be up by 6. But usually if I go to bed on time, my cycle is 7.5 hours. I will wake up automatically and I will turn off the alarm before it even goes off. So some people do need the alarm clock in order to go into a deep sleep because they're just paranoid like me. Do the alarm, but you should not be turning off the alarm. You should just be conscious and awake when you turn that alarm off. So you don't want to inject your body with these levels of cortisol. Okay, where are we at on time? And yeah, I think we're good. And so how do you get a good night's sleep? So the first thing I'm going to say is, guys, stop eating and drinking 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. When your body goes into a deep restorative sleep, it does not need to be digesting food. If you are digesting food, 40%, if not more, if you're eating meat and heavy things, it could be up to 50 to 60% of your body's energy is now going into digesting the food. And that means the growth hormone, the natural killer cells, the liver detoxing, the kidneys detoxing, none of that is happening. And so it's just using its energy to actually digest the food. So you don't want to eat 3 to 4 hours before bedtime. Schedule your caffeine first thing in the morning. And then don't drink any caffeine in the day. Now, caffeine, for example, what happens in the brain for caffeine? So if you have a double espresso at noon, which many people do, if you have a double espresso at noon, at 6 p.m., so it has a very long half-life, okay? It has a 6-hour, for most people, half-life. 6 hours, you are now have 1 shot of espresso type of caffeine in your brain at that point. 6 hours later. At midnight, you still have a quarter of that espresso. So the half-life of caffeine is 6 hours. The quarter life of caffeine is 12 hours. Even if you say 10 hours, that means you still have a quarter cup of espresso in your system at 10 p.m., let's just say. So you are not going to get that deep restorative sleep and all that glymphatic magic that's going to happen if you have caffeine beyond a certain time. So I say your limit should be 10 a.m. And I know there's people like, well, what about my, evening tea? And what about my 5 p.m. tea and my, what do they call that? The English, which a lot of British systems, Pakistan, India, all of these guys have their evening, evening tea. No, guys, now we have science. We have neuroscience that is telling us caffeine is bad for your sleep. And if you can eliminate it altogether, even more magic. So no more. For me, my rule is nothing after 10 a.m. So I might have all sorts of caffeine before that, but nothing after that. You want to power up with the sun and turn down with the sun. And you want to limit your blue light consumption. They found there was one research study done that 1 hour before bedtime, they used the iPad and the melatonin release was 50% less. So let me tell you a little bit about blue light. Blue light is everything behind these screens. I told you that. This blue light is the same light that the surgeon has over their head, and it's in some of the lights that we use over our head. that light sends a signal to the brain saying, don't release melatonin, it's daytime. It's daytime, stay alert. And you know those lights in the operating theaters, they're so bright. It's the same screen it's the same light behind our screen saying, don't release melatonin because you might operate on the wrong leg. And so that bright light is supposed to keep us alert. It also keeps us engaged with our, with our devices, but it's messing up our melatonin system, okay? And our melatonin is not being released. And then when we close our eyes, an hour and a half later, 2 hours later, the brain is like, oh, it's dark now, release the melatonin, and then the machine moves, and then it starts to release, and then you move into restorative sleep. So if you guys are going to bed at 11, and the last thing you did was look at a blue light screen blue light, and it's going to take maybe till 12 or 1 before you move into that restorative sleep, and you're already halfway through your deep restorative magic at that point. So you really, really, guys, put some blue light screen protectors. All my devices, the one I'm looking at, the one on my phone, and I even at night have blue light glasses that I wear, and they look like this, and I have yellow. The ones with the yellow screen are even better for the nighttime, because then there's no light coming through your eyes, not the ones in your room, not the ones on your screen. It really blocks out the blue light, and the brain starts to move into a melatonin release beautifully. I would say even walk around. I mean, if you live alone, I would be wearing those blue light, the yellow tinted glasses all night long, especially in the evenings while you watch your TV, anything. You can keep those glasses on, and they have very lightweight. They don't, they're not disruptive, but this way you're really protecting that melatonin release in your body. It's all of the lights that are causing havoc in our body, guys. The next thing, you want to have the temperature in your room cold. The body's temperature has to drop 1 degree in order for you to move into that deep restorative third, fourth cycle. I know people are like, oh my God, lady, you're crazy. I'm not crazy. This is just how it is. And what you want, I mean, if you really are struggling, you may want to even take a hot shower when you take before you go to bed, because what that does is that there's vasodilation happening. The blood vessels on your skin open up on the surface, and all the blood rushes to it, and it drops the core temperature of your body. Think about when you're doing like baby training, right? They give them a hot bath, they massage, they have like lavender diffusers, they have all sorts of soothing things happening. Literally, this is what you need to do. I went to Davos for the World Economic Forum several years ago, and Ariana Huffington was sitting there in her huge room full of all of these suits, and basically telling them, guys, wear your pajamas and go to bed. Like, this is what you need. Our economies and our countries' futures depend on how well you have slept. And so have a sleep routine in place. Shower, pajamas, tea, book. If you have a Kindle, you can use the Kindle. That's why the Kindle looks like it's from 1932, is because it doesn't have a blue light behind it. And that blue light is not there. So you can just read on that Kindle if you want. And so, and also doing some muscle relaxation, progressive muscle relaxation. I use an app sometimes, although I don't need to because I have a pretty good routine. And the tea I'm talking about is decaffeinated, guys. So I usually drink Pukka nighttime tea or chamomile tea. This because I have a very hyperactive mind, and usually there's like 400 thoughts a minute going on in my head, and this just calms me down and chills out my mind and starts to drop my body into a relaxed state. I also take other supplements, which I can tell you guys about, which I don't think are in here, but I'll tell you. I use aromatherapy. You can use pillow spray, but make sure that they're natural and they're not like these really strong ones, because some are really strong and like gave me the biggest headache. So just light spray you might have, or you might have a diffuser of essential oils. For example, when you go into a spa, no one says, Dr. Saliha, we want you to get calm and relaxed now. No, the lighting is soothing, the smells are soothing, the teas are soothing, and immediately you move into a relaxed state. Why do we want to go? Relaxed state is not sleep, but relaxed state moves you into getting ready for a deeper sleep. You want to limit your alcohol consumption. I know everybody talks about a nightcap. Guess what, guys? We now know from science that the nightcaps really are just knocking out your cortex. It's knocking you out. It is not the same thing as naturalistic sleep. Same thing with sleeping pills. They're not the same thing as the naturalistic sleep. You're knocking your cortex out and you're passing out, but this is not good for you. And sleep actually, and alcohol really disrupts your REM sleep. And it actually, and you're so sort of groggy and exhausted that you actually don't even realize, but you're waking up all night long when you've had a night out and you've been drinking. You really, yeah, that can really cause havoc for your sleep cycle. So don't drink too close to bedtime because it really does disrupt your sleep. Use supplements to relax the mind and body. Now, there are supplements that I use. I don't get paid by any of these people to say this, but I have literally tried everything in the book. And I was one of those people that was using sleeping aids to relax my body and mind. But I realized that that's not the kind of sleep. And my body burnt out, my mind burnt out. I was in a really adrenal fatigue. I've been through it all to come to a place where I can say, now I've got a really good sleep routine. And I usually start with this routine 30 minutes before bedtime, sometimes even an hour before bedtime. And I take my magnesium, Magvita. If you go on my Instagram account, I have a sleep highlight, and in it, I have the pictures of everything I take. I take healthy cell vitamins, one for the AM, one for the PM. And I also take like a sleep juice, basically, which has some melatonin in it, but very small dosage. So people ask me, can I take melatonin for sleep? You know what? Melatonin, actually anywhere from 40% less to 800 times more is what they found, because it is not a regulated medication. And so you don't want to take melatonin if it's not regulated. You want to take tiny, tiny, tiny. And people are like, I take 5 milligrams. And it's like, whoa, that is way above what is recommended. That means you're doing something wrong in the day. That means you're going to feel groggy in the morning. And you don't want to do that. And so that's what you want to do. And if you are going to snack, I would say snack on things that help release tryptophan. Tryptophan is in turkey. That's why everybody passes out after that turkey dinner or turkey lunch during Thanksgiving, is because there's a lot of tryptophan in turkey. And so we want to eat foods that have tryptophan and melatonin release, okay? So tart cherry juice, kiwi, walnuts, almonds, these things are all great for melatonin and tryptophan. Drink teas that reduce the stress and induce relaxation, such as Pukka Nighttime or 3 Chamomile. I love these teas. This is what I drink. I don't drink them in the day because these are medicinal grade organic teas and they really knock me out, like seriously. And even if I forget to take them, if I'm traveling, like that's the first thing that goes in my suitcase. If I forget, like I'm having that DHL to me if I can't find them in that country. If you can't sleep, you should get out of bed. You should not be tossing and turning for hours upon hours in your bed, because the brain is a very associative device that we have, and it's going to start to associate your bed with sleeplessness. So get up, go walk around, don't look at your phone, go walk around, maybe read a little bit, and then come back to bed before you go to sleep. There's a lot of, I mean, I know it takes effort, but really this is you talking about longevity. This is you talking about wellness. This is you talking about mental health. This is you talking about not getting things like cancers and dementias. I think it's worth a little bit of effort to just get out of bed, go do something, and then come back to bed when you're ready to sleep. So go read a book or do something, but try to avoid blue light screens, because then again, you're activated. And for people who have partners that have different sleep routines than you, research suggests that sleep divorce really works well. And actually, it's like a very recent phenomenon that people should sleep in the same bed. I mean, if you look at all the English movies and all the, monarchies and all the things that we see in documentaries, everybody had their own bed. Everybody goes to bed in their own space. So it might be something for you to consider, because people are happier. Everybody slept well. There's a lot more love in the relationship when you sleep in separate beds, because you both have different sleep cycles and wake cycles and things like that. So it is something for you to have a discussion with your partner with. that's all I have for you guys. And now I'm going to take some questions. I know we're right up on time. If I didn't answer your question, please send me a message on Instagram, and I would be very happy to answer your questions there if I haven't already answered them. So I'm now going to take the questions here. You guys can stay online if you want. I will continue on. Yes, sleep routine does have decaffeinated tea. Does kiwi fruit help to fall asleep faster? It's all about tryptophan, melatonin, guys. These chemicals in our brain actually help relax to induce the deep sleep. So yes, the foods that I mentioned will relax to induce deep sleep. The chamomile relaxes to induce deep sleep. What would be the best time to have coffee? I think I did mention this. It would be, not as soon as you wake up, but early enough after that, but before 10 a.m. Some of these questions I already have. Yeah, for people who are saying, my kids don't go to bed until 4 a.m. Yeah, I would not do that. You're literally setting them up for mental health issues, physical health issues, even in the summertime, because this person said even in the summer, they don't have a good routine. The kids need a routine even in the summertime, even on the weekends. So my kids are allowed maybe to sleep an hour and a half later during the weekends, but even in the weekends, and of course, every now and then the whole family is together and we're up until midnight. Okay, but this is not a normal, regular routine that we're in. It really, really causes, and I have something written here. I don't know where he says, but it almost is causing low-level brain damage when you don't get that quality sleep. The lymphatic system, the plaque that builds up, it's low-level brain damage that we're going through if we continue on for weeks and days. Every now and then, okay, but that's not recommended at all. So let's see, I'm going down. Hot milk before bedtime. So generally speaking, human beings should avoid cow's milk because it causes inflammation, but you want to talk to your dietitian about that. Milk usually does release tryptophan. So that's why they give hot milk, and hot milk, not cold milk. When you heat up the milk, it releases tryptophan and it induces a sleep. I'd rather you not drink the hot milk, because just don't drink milk. You should drink chamomile tea because it will do the same thing, and it's much, much better for you. So some people said, what about work-related thoughts and anxieties that come up? I don't know why I didn't put that in there. What research shows is that people who write down their thoughts, their negative thoughts, you scribble them on a piece of paper, crumple them up and throw them in the garbage, those, you're almost getting rid of them. So I have like a negative thought moment where you're just dropping everything into your journal, and then you will be able to get a good night's sleep. So everything you're worried about, put it on a piece of paper, throw it in the garbage, and then go to sleep. So this is what research recommends, and it has been shown to show like a significant drop in your negative thoughts. But you don't want to just do that. I'm telling you to do everything else, and then the negative thoughts as well. So if you're having coffee, and if you're not doing this one and that one and that one, and you're only journaling, don't do that, because that's not going to help you. But if you're doing all of, because there are days, for example, there are things that happen at my work and it keeps me up at night, but it does happen every now and then, but I'm gonna I actually have double tea bags that I will put of my chamomile tea or my nighttime tea to give me more of those herbs to make sure that I move into a deeper state. I will do the journaling, but I will double the ante on all the other things that I do to make sure that I get that good night's sleep. I will make sure that I'm out in the daylight. I make sure that I'm exercising some of that stress out. So it is a very holistic way of coming at sleep. It's not just one thing that I say. Everything I said is critical for you to get a good night's sleep, not just one. Okay, I'll put my temperature down and let's see if that helps. It's not going to help if you had coffee at 1 p.m. So it's not going to work unless you're doing it all together to have a nighttime routine. Just like if you don't you know, if you give your baby a bath, but you know, gave him sugar right before he goes to bed, okay, it doesn't matter because now his system is hyperactive. So you do have to do it all together, all at once, to get, you know, the sleep thing under control. And it's not easy, guys, in a world that, you know, parties at night and dinners at night and all these other things, socializing at night, all of these things. It's not easy to have a good night routine because everything happens at night. And now everything is open till midnight and 1 a.m. and this one and that one. And so you are very seduced to go out. You're very seduced to stay on Netflix for a little bit longer. But what's the cost of that in the long run for you? It's about discipline. There's a discipline involved here that I am now going to do something that is really boring, but I need to do it because my mental health, my physical health, my appearance, my mood, my engagement, my learning, everything depends on this. Okay, it requires that level of discipline. So someone says that you can't reverse the damage done. I'm talking about people who've already been diagnosed with dementia and diabetes and high blood pressure, like things like that. The body has a blood pressure, I think could be, you know, and again, I'm not going to speak, I'm not a medical doctor, but I've watched documentaries where the body has a very strong ability to heal itself if we reduce the inflammation, if we live a life that is geared towards physical health. So yes, I do believe you can reverse the damage, but yeah, there are some things that you are just going to get that's going to make it a whole lot harder if you get to that tipping point. Once you get the diagnosis of diabetes and some systems are at failure, once you get the diagnosis of dementia, then it's going to be a whole lot harder for you to reverse that damage. All the other things that our body is going through, you definitely can heal yourself. You definitely can, you know, reverse that, but you're not, you know, don't play with fire, basically. Don't say, well, I'll damage all week long, reverse on the weekend. Because at some point during the week, you're going to get a flip in that switch, and then it's going to be a whole lot harder for you to reverse it. Don't live on the edge like that. Get your good night's sleep so you're not having to fight for your health in the end. Live a good, healthy lifestyle. Someone said, does it have to be in the day or can it be in night? So I think I made that pretty clear because we are with the circadian rhythms and it moves with the sunlight. So if you're sleeping 7 hours in the day, but you're staying up all night, then maybe you are a night owl, but you don't want to do that because the day sleep is going to be less conducive towards that restorative sleep because of the sunlight. So if you are sleeping, if you are working a night shift, what you want to do is you want to recreate the night. You want to have these black out, block out sun curtains, every single thing that I said, you're going to literally recreate in the day. But if you have light in your day, you're just not going to get the restorative sleep. The circadian rhythms matter towards the restorative sleep because it matters towards the melatonin release. That's why you don't want to look at phones, etc., etc. So I hope that I've made that clear. Yes, you will get a recording of this. The person who organized is going to be giving you that. What about reading? What about reading? That's not a very clear question, guys. Read, it's good for you, but read not on your devices unless they have a blue light screen protector. And even with the blue light screen protector, I would recommend that you wear the glasses just to be safe, just to be sure, just to make sure that because there's still light on top of you, right? You're still in the day, like there's still electricity and there's still light bulbs. And so you just want to wear those orange glasses. They're on my daughter's desk right now. She took them from me, but I would have shown you. But they're, if you Google blue light blocking glasses, and I can actually, if you go to OcuShield, and actually it's called It's on my sleep highlights on my Instagram, guys. It's called In Visual Eyes. These are the two that I recommend. These are optometrists tested and created, and they're just good for you. Like before, when I didn't have blue light screen protectors on my screens, like I would have the biggest headaches. But now that I do, I don't even feel like I did anything all day because there's a blue light screen protector and it doesn't change your screen in any way. It's nice and bright. There's nothing orange. So these are the two that I would recommend. What is the good replacement for chamomile tea? I would say Pukka nighttime tea, which is lavender. So I actually don't like the taste of chamomile. So I usually put mint, like peppermint with chamomile, because I'm not a big fan of the taste of chamomile. So I put 2 tea bags in the same tea, and I actually put both of them. And most days, and I wish I could show it to you because I actually have my tea bags here, but one is called Relax, one is called Nighttime. And I put 2 tea bags, especially nowadays when it's so hectic. I drink Relax, and Relax is so good, actually. Let me see, Relax and Nighttime by Pukka. And you can get them in any of these grocery stores, by the way, and you can get them online as well. And they're organic and they're beautiful. Yeah, you can read, just don't read on a device. Read on a Kindle, read a book. I'm not getting sleep for more than 4 hours. You need to get more than 4 hours. That's all I can say about that. And I've told you everything that you need to do in order to get more than that. And so do my nighttime routine, guys. I've done this with plenty of people to know. And I'm telling you, I can't say it's hundreds of people's, but it's almost close to 100 where I've done nighttime sleep training for adults. But I'm telling you, it's not what you do in the night. It's what you do in the day. But if you're not willing to discipline yourself and not look at your blue screen device, if you're not willing to spend the money on blue screen protectors, if you're not willing to take that hot shower, if you're not willing to stop drinking caffeine after 10 a.m., because you know what, I really love my Diet Coke. I like really love it sometimes, but it's like, nope, not gonna have Diet Coke because it doesn't have, there's caffeine free, but it doesn't taste the same. And so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have my Sprite. So because it doesn't, and my diet Sprite, just to get that sort of kick, but it doesn't have caffeine in it. And so I really like, it really is every move that you make during the day is going to impact what you do at night. Are you exercising? Are you moving? Are you in the sunlight in the first thing in the morning? Are you doing your nighttime routine? So it is an effort you have to make. But like I said, if I told you that this powerful elixir could change your life, it changes the way you come at anything in life, whether you're learning, whether you're loving, whether you're giving, whether you're, working, any of that. If you have a good night's sleep, everything is different. And so would you work towards that elixir? Would you do what I just asked you to do? Yes, you would, right? You would, but no, we're not willing to discipline ourselves. And we want all of this and all of that too. So it's just not gonna work. People who are not easy falling asleep, everything I told you to induce sleep is what you're gonna wanna do. Because some people are saying, I can't relax. I just gave you really long answers towards what you can do to relax. Someone asked me, what about exercise between 8 to 10? Exercise is recommended first thing in the morning, not like, especially rigorous exercise. You should not do close to bedtime because there's too much cortisol and adrenaline in your body. You want to wind down. Think about it when we were hunters and gatherers, guys. We're not going to go hunting at night, right? We're going to go hunting in the morning, and then we're going to travel back home, and then we're going to eat at night. Then the fire goes out and we go to sleep. Do that. Live like the hunters and gatherers, and you will have a healthier life because they made it through all those centuries. We're the ones causing all kinds of chaos to our body. We're the ones that are living the longest, but living the sickest because there is so much stress in our body. So anything you do, think how would the hunters and gatherers have done it, and kind of work like that. Learn in the morning, read in the morning. What if you didn't have electricity? What would you do? You would be with the sunlight. You would eat with the sunlight, rise with the sun, set with the sun. That's what you want to do. So avoid rigorous exercise and adrenaline and cortisol pumping through your body later in the evening. if I have a headache, quick naps of 10 to 15 minutes release my headache. You know, if you can nap for 10 minutes, more power to you. Because what they found was that there was what's the word I'm thinking of? Anyone who slept more than 10 minutes had there's a word, but it's not good to nap for more than 10 minutes, basically. So if you can nap for 10 minutes, these are the power nappers, go right ahead. Majority of the world cannot nap for 10 minutes. We nap for 30, sometimes we nap for an hour, and that is where you start to move into trouble. If you can do a power nap and you're 10 minutes in and out, keep more power to you. But most people don't do it like that. Some people said, okay, the only lecture I attended that will benefit me. I am grateful for that feedback. Thank you. Caffeine free, keep drinking it, guys. More power to you. You have your coffee at night if it's caffeine free. Keep drinking those teas if it's caffeine free. Avoid sugar at night. Somebody said, what about ice cream? Avoid sugar. Sugar is a hyperactive type of, chemical. Avoid sugar altogether. Sugar causes inflammation. It reduces your immunity for the following 6 hours. Avoid sugar. But if you're gonna have sugar, earlier, nothing 3 to 4 hours, guys. 3 to 4 hours. Yeah, I think I answered the tea contains caffeine. Guys, there are caffeine-free teas. Okay, another question. What happens if you're hungry before bedtime? Drink water, but not too much. And like I said, have those little bit of snacks that I told you. But if you're hungry before bedtime, then maybe you should just go to sleep and wake up and then have your food. And then just manage that hunger, because it's probably not hunger. It's probably something else. If you've had a good dinner, there's no reason for you to be hungry after that. And this is, again, something, and maybe I've just had too many children and I've had to train them all in these kinds of routines. But if a child comes to me and I'm trying to put it to bed and it's like, mama, but I'm hungry. Okay, now it's not hungry because it ate. So eat a good meal and eat around 7. And then you shouldn't be hungry before you go to bed. And maybe you should go to bed earlier so you're not hungry. And that's why you want to wake up in the morning and eat. And I actually don't even eat when I wake up in the morning. Working out before sleep, not a good idea. I think I have answered a lot of these questions. Do you guys have any? I already said the night shift bit. So someone said, if I slept in a different bed, my partner would not be very happy with me and she'll consider it a separation. It is a conversation, guys. Don't just decide to like wake up and like disappear from bed. It is a conversation. It is based in science. It is a conversation to be had. Of course, I am not suggesting that you should sleep in separate beds. I am saying if they're snoring, by the way, snoring is a deadly disease. FYI, for people who snore, you need to go get a sleep study done and you need to figure out that and you need to resolve that, because it will lead to poor sleep, which will lead to dementias, etc. So snoring is this kind of heavy, this apnea. You do need to resolve that. It's not just, oh my God, he snores so loud or she snores so loud. So women suffer from insomnia twice as more likely to suffer from insomnia, and men suffer from apnea twice as more likely. So you do need to go into a sleep study lab and figure out and resolve that, because and lose weight and do all these other things that you need to do, because snoring is not normal. And you should not be snoring, because it is when your body is not getting the right oxygen, and then all sorts of other things are happening. So I would say if you do have a partner and they are working on that and it's disrupting your sleep, then you need to have separate rooms or separate spaces that you sleep in while they resolve that issue, because your health is now going to be they resolve their issue, you need to be sleeping in a separate bed. And there are people, who, want to sleep in a cooler room and the partner doesn't want to sleep in a cooler room, although everyone should sleep in a cooler room. But maybe this just bothers you. if it's bothering your sleep, then you need to sleep in separate beds, and it needs to be a conversation. Don't just get up and sleep in a separate room. I would not recommend that. Yes, great. Sometimes people are like, why do people sleep, prefer sleeping on the sofa? I don't know. What kinds of associations do you have on your bed? And maybe you're just, dozing off on the sofa, and that's just your body feeling very relaxed, right? You're relaxed in that state. That's the same state you want to induce with your bed. You want to move into a relaxed state. When some people look at the bed and they have other associations. So with sofas, and very comfortable sofas, we associate relaxation, our weekends, pajamas. This is what we associate. You want to make the same associations with your bed. I can probably take a couple of more questions. Somebody said, is it true that drinking cold water before you sleep is not right? You shouldn't drink cold water, period, because your body uses energy to warm up that water. But before bed, you shouldn't drink water. No, because then you're going to want to get up in the middle of the night and go to the washroom. And you don't want to do that. You want to stop drinking water maybe, an hour before. And you will know what your levels are. Like, I have my cup of tea an hour before I go to bed, and that doesn't seem to disrupt me. And so you just need to know what your sort of routine is, but have the tea 2 hours before bedtime and then move into that sleep. So cold water, I would not recommend. Let's see. Yes, recording will be shared. Yes, I will not share the presentation, but the recording will be shared. Exercise first thing in the morning with the morning light, guys. Alternatives to alarm are just get a good night's sleep and you will wake up on time. It's just how we've done it. We are the only animal on the planet that makes ourselves suffer when it comes to sleep. We are the only animal on the planet that does this, that uses alarms, that uses, stays up late at night, deprives ourselves of sleep. The only animal that has these kinds of diseases forming in their body, because we're not listening to it. We're not intuitive. We're not saying, what do you need right now? How can I give you what you need right now? And so intuition is different than discipline, by the way. Intuition is not the same thing as, oh, I want to stay up all night watch Netflix. That's not intuition. That's called, seduction, which is different. Intuition is, what does your body need in that moment? And so it would be really important to pay attention to your body and give it that. Best practice for coffee before 10 a.m., guys. They say you shouldn't have more than 2 cups of coffee a day before 10 a.m. I sometimes have 3 cups of coffee before 10 a.m. It just helps me focus. And for people who have some attention issues or hyperactive minds, stimulants usually do help with focus. So you will know who you are. If you are highly anxious, do not drink 2 cups of coffee before 10 a.m. By the way, guys, everything I shared with you is only for adults. It's not for children. So for children under 2, naps are okay, all of that stuff. They need that. They need 14 to 16 hours because they're growing a lot more. Teenagers need 12 hours of sleep because they're growing a lot more. When we're pregnant, you need a lot more sleep because you're growing something inside of you. But for the most part, healthy, normal adults under the age of 65 need 7 to 9 hours of sleep. You will know what you need, and it will be natural, because I cannot, for the life of me, I don't care what holiday I'm on, I don't care what, I cannot for the life of me go beyond 8 hours. I don't know how people sleep for 9. I wish I could, but I can't. I cannot go beyond 8 hours. And a maximum, it's like 7 hours and 45 minutes. And I wear a Fitbit. This is not an ad, but if you can't, measure it, you can't manage it. And so for me, my sleep score, it tells you light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep, restlessness, heart rate, all of that is measured on here. And so I check my sleep score and I see how well I rested, but I don't really need it because I feel mostly rested. But sometimes it's just good to know, was I really restless last night, or was I just dreaming that? Okay. All right, I think I've answered a lot of these questions. If I didn't answer, you guys, you see it on my screen here is my Instagram account, at Dr. Saliha Afridi. If you go on there, there's highlights on there. For parents, we recommend following these two accounts. We talk a lot about child mental health and physical health on these two accounts. If you have teenagers, they can follow Lighthouse Insight, but you can also follow Lighthouse Insight because my kids don't have social media, but I send them snapshots of these tiles because it's a good, concise way of communicating mental health information. It's like, you know, our version of TikTok, but not really more sophisticated than that, I would say. So one last question is what I will answer. This is about dreams. Dreams, actually, I'll answer these two. These two are good questions. Dreams are, we spend, you know, 1/3 of our life actually dreaming. We have about 8 to 11 dreams a night. If you say, I can't remember my dreams, it's because you are not paying attention to your dreams. Because I've said I don't remember my dreams. Once I started paying attention and I made it a deliberate practice, because your psyche is communicating something to you at that point, you're losing a lot of information if you don't, you know, journal your dreams. There are nights where I'm like, oh, I lost the dream because I woke up, and the second you open your eyes, the dream sort of goes. So before I open my eyes, I usually say, okay, what did I just dream about? I keep track, I repeat the dream in my mind, and then I jot it down in my phone, and I just type it. I highlight the major things, and then I go back. So it is a whole practice of dream journaling. This is not something you do randomly. For me, dreams are what, not me, but psychologically speaking, dreams are basically your unconscious mind processing and sending you messages. It's a communication channel. In some traditions, in the Islamic tradition and other traditions, they say it's basically, you know, where God gives you your answer. So you go to sleep with a question, and in your dream or in the first moment when you wake up, you will have your answer. And that basically is the unconscious, and that is the psyche. Before you come online and your frontal lobe comes online, you're basically getting the answers through that. So you are really missing out on a lot of information about what your truth is, what your purpose is, what your magic is, what your insights are, if you don't document your dreams. That's just my 2 cents about that. And somebody says, what is a good time? What's like the perfect time to go to bed and wake up? It just depends on how you operate. I really like to wake up at 5 a.m. And so I usually am in bed by 9:30 p.m. The days I go to bed at 10, I wake up at 5:30 usually. But 6 a.m. club is usually good because then you have an hour before the hustle bustle of the day begins. I really like waking up early because I can just ease into my day. I have a very calm morning routine. I don't want to be running around first thing in the morning. I wear my face mask, I do my thing, and then I go horse riding and I go exercise. Like I have all sorts of things that I do before 7 a.m. even happens. And so for me, the morning time is very sacred. And if the morning time is very sacred, that means I got to get to bed. Yesterday, I had a bedtime of 8:30. I was so proud of myself. But most often, it's between 9:30 and 10 that I usually go to bed. And I would recommend 10, 10:30 for most people. So you know, because most people are not like me, obsessed with their sleep. All right, guys, you guys will get the recording for this. If you guys have any other questions that I didn't answer, please message me and I will be very happy to respond to those, okay?